their China head when I was there. They've got a whole facility there. They call it, in China for China, that unless you're competing with the best, what my friend Jörg Wittke, the head of the European Union Chamber of Commerce, calls the China Fitness Club, unless you're in the gym with them, you're going to get run over.
So this conversation we're having emerges out of a conversation we had a little bit randomly on the phone. You had just come from China and I had just come back from book tour. And we were talking about something else, but then I asked you how your China trip was. And what you said to me basically was, Ezra, you have no idea how screwed we are.
Yeah. Because what you see, Ezra, when you're there is the product of 30 years of being in the fitness gym. And it's a particularly Chinese fitness gym. And it kind of works like this. New industry comes along, let's call it solar panels. Every major city in China decides they need a solar panel factory. And the local government subsidizes it, maybe domestically born, maybe partnership with a foreign one, maybe a foreign one. And you end up in a very short period of time, I'm making the number up, but with 75 solar panel companies. They then compete like crazy against each other in the fitness gym, and 5 of them survive. Those 5 are so fit that they can then go global at a price and level of innovation that is very hard for a foreign competitor to deal with, which is why China today basically controls the global solar panel market. But what you also don't see is that process of winnowing down from 100 of those solar panel companies to 5 produced a massive explosion of supply chains domestically to feed that industry. Same thing went on with cars. The same thing goes on with robots. And so where you end up 5 years later is with interlocking set of supply chains that now, if you're a young Chinese and say, I just got this idea. I want to produce a shirt that has a pink polka dot button that can sing the Chinese national anthem backward. Someone will have it for you tomorrow.
So the process you're describing here, the Chinese government identifies solar panels as an industry. They, using a variety of mechanisms, absolutely flood the country with subsidized financing to become a solar panel company. And you get very strange things here, like there was an example a couple of years back where one of the big real estate firms there that was in crisis tried to become an EV firm because then it could get a bunch of finance.
Yeah. Yep.
The Chinese government absorbs a huge amount of waste, failure, and graft, Solyndra times 1,000, things we would never accept in this country.
Yes.
So a bunch of these firms just pocket money for nothing, a bunch of them fail. But in that, on the other side of that process of failure, waste, graft, you get these very, very potent national champions, they're called, that then the Chinese government puts a huge amount of resources behind. And I want to add one other thing because it speaks to some of the trade fights we're having. For China to have the money to do this, to not require more efficiency from their own companies and their own investments, part of the way they're doing it is keeping wages suppressed in their country.
Yes.
Part of the way they're doing it is exporting much more than they consume. Part of the way they're doing it is maintaining a kind of imbalanced economy, highly focused on production. But going back to this idea of the gym, the fitness, like we understand in America, right, capitalism, survival of the fittest, they don't demand that you're very fit at the beginning. They demand that you're fit at the end. We actually demand, with the exception of some VC investments that are fairly, usually fairly small scale, we demand that you're fit at the beginning.
It's a very good point, and I'll give you a perfect example of that. So there was Ford Motor today has built a battery factory in Marshall, Michigan, using the IRA money from the Biden administration. That factory makes batteries for EVs. The technology, though, comes from China. It's a company called CATL. That CATL technology was actually born in America in the Obama administration. People tried to scale it here then. They failed. The founders, basically the it went into bankruptcy, and a Chinese entrepreneur bought it, took it back to China, scaled it there, and is now doing tech transfer to Ford, bringing it back here. It's a perfect example of what you're talking about. So the lack of patience.
I want to go back then to this question of the Washington Consensus. And it's a reason I wanted to have this conversation. I get very nervous when both parties agree on something too much.